May all sentient beings meet with. Is it working? May all sentient beings meet with happiness and the cause of happiness. May all sentient beings are without suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never get separated from that happiness which is without suffering. May we all abide in equanimity. So, Tashidele, anybody knows this word, Tashidele? Tashidele, which is a Tibetan word, which means when we greet, just like namaste, so we say Tashidele. So, just like in the word namaste, the meaning of namaste, as you know, is I greet the God in you. That's the namaste. A little bit down still. Acha. Hello? Is it okay? Hello, 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 hello. Everybody. Yeah, okay? Yeah, yeah. Hello, hello, now good. Yeah, okay. Okay, okay. Yeah, so Tashi Dilek. Tashi Dilek. Next, if you come to Dharamsala, this word will be very useful for you. You will meet number of Tibetans, then you can say Tashi Dilek. Tashi Dilek. So Tashi means auspiciousness. So Tashi Dilek means may you have auspiciousness and also happy and well. That's how we greet. By extension, we say that may you have happiness in the morning, happiness in the midday, and happiness in the evening. May you have happiness all times. That's how we greet each other. So happiness is something that we all want, but that does not mean to say that there will be like happiness all the time, having no problem, no difficulty all the time. That is not possible. It is like expecting like only day and no night. ये प्रकृति का नियम है that there is a day, there is a night. Normally we would prefer light, right? Not darkness. But imagine if you have only day and no night. If you want to know more, then you can ask these questions to people who live in Norway and all those places where they have 6 months darkness and 6 months night. Many people there suffer from, they are very used to that, but still there are many people who suffer from depression and things like that, you see. So darkness not necessarily mean bad. It is the other side of the coin. And actually, the word difficulty or problem, if you don't want to, sometimes I prefer using the word challenges rather than difficulty and problems. Because when we say problem, suffering, people don't like it right from the beginning. But when you say challenge, then, if you face a challenge, then there is an opportunity for you to grow, to learn new things. It's like wrestling, If you want to build your muscles, then you need to fight with the opponent. Tooth and nail, you have to fight. The more, you have a strong opponent, wrestler, the more there is a chances of your learning more tricks and thereby build your muscles, things like that. So challenges, difficulties or problems, whatever kind of name, or calamities or misfortunes, whatever name you give it, but I think there is no much point and no much need to right from the beginning see them as horrible, unacceptable, things like that. It's part of the deal, which means life needs it. Like this particular COVID-19 pandemic, nobody likes COVID-19 pandemic. We had a lot of difficulty, things like that. But don't just focus on the deaths and troubles that we had, but also some of the good things that we experience. Is there any good thing? Like in many places I learned, in Dharamsala I could witness, hardly anybody got cold and flu during this pandemic. Why? Because you sanitize yourself, you cover your mouth. so, so before the pandemic, before the COVID-19, we are all careless. Everybody was, especially during the winter, everybody is coughing, having flu and fever and things like that. It was not there. So in a way, it is teaching us, we are a bunch of thick-headed people, very difficult to change unless you experience the bitter truth. बोलने से नहीं चलता है. When you yourself actually undergo a lot of hardship and problems, then you really grow. I'm not saying you should unnecessarily have problem, but when problems come and sufferings come and difficulties come, don't just look at that problem alone and don't start there. There are many aspects of the same life, same situation. So see from a wider perspective, right? So therefore it is very important. And therefore this is so important. Therefore in the Buddhist teaching, especially in the teachings called mind training teachings, there is a special text that's called mind training. Of course, all the teachings of the Buddha are for mind training, but there are certain other specially written books which is on mind training, like the book that I recommended earlier, Shantideva's Bodhisattva Way of Life, is an excellent book on mind training. In fact, that book is the source of all the later writings, right? So it's really important. Mind training. Oneself is controlled by the mind. Mind is controlled by negative emotions predominantly, as I said earlier. So unless you train, you cannot just be good by thinking I will be good. Just like you cannot just go to a university and say I will pass without studying. Right? You have to study. Only then you will pass. So similarly, in life, mind must be trained. And the good thing with the training of the mind, as I already mentioned the other day, that unlike physical training, however much training you give, it has a limitation, beyond which you cannot go. But mind can be trained to limitless quality. And if you train your mind to such a great extent, which means if you really have a holistic perspective, if you develop a correct mental outlook, when you reach certain stage, it seems really nothing can bother you there. No ghost can bother you, no evil forces can bother you, no illness can bother you, no suffering can bother you. Right now for us, when I say this, this is just a myth, we might think like that. It's possible, because we are not trained. If you're trained, then you don't have to worry about all these things. Now let us, for the time being, forget about spiritual practices. Let us compare ourselves to the birds and animals which are existing with us side by side. Now look at the birds. Have you seen any bird wearing eyeglasses? Or any special, big like hospital or for the birds, for the animals? Or have you seen, birds kept in specially air-conditioned room, provided with all the delicious food, things like that? कुछ भी नहीं है इनके पास. So these animals, these birds, if it is winter, whatever they have, that is their clothes, whatever. Summer also वही चलता है. अभी हम लोग क्या हो गए? इतना we are so sensitive. One maybe we are maybe different makeup, but then other thing is the cognitive designation, exaggeration of things. Pampering this body, taking it so much. Nobody takes care of the mind, only taking care of the body. Gym में जाना, exercise करना, ये खाना, ये नहीं खाना, वो है. At the end of the day, you are completely fooled, The more you remain cautious, the more people will sell products to make you another food. So the more and more now you go away actually from the natural food. You go only into a supermarket and then buy the so-called, you know, natural food, things like that. So I think we can learn a lot from these animals. Birds and animals, do they talk about death? I don't think so. So in our case, the different, difference is that in our case, we have this very sophisticated, intelligent mind, which is when untrained, very sensitive, very vulnerable, you know. Just like if you look at the birds or animals, many of them are mentally not very sensitive, physically very sensitive, because that is how they have to protect themselves. Like if you watch a bird sitting on the branch of a tree, the bird physically is very alert, moves like this, ready to fly at the sound of another, animal ready to fly. Even the deers, when they're drinking water, they just take one mouthful and then move. We are not that. We are like that. जैसे खा के पैदा है, किसी चीज़ से परवाह नहीं. So much dependence on the intelligence. But this intelligence is, if not trained, can lead to great destruction, which is already happening in our world. So therefore, training the mind, not necessarily a religious thing, but we can call it spiritual. There's a difference between spirituality and religion, right? More and more people now prefer to talk about spirituality than religion. And in fact, once I attended a very big international conference in Mexico many years back. So there were many great kind of scientists and religious leaders and things like that. So one of the scientists, he made a presentation based on a book that he's written. That is a comparative study of spirituality and religion. Which one is more beneficial? He found spirituality is much, much more beneficial than religion. So spirituality basically means something to do with our basic spirit, based on our own reasoning and knowledge and experience. That makes more sense than just, believing in some mythology and things like that. So anyway, what I'm saying is that life is short in general. This also I already mentioned. Life is short. There are too many things to do, which we cannot do, and no need to do, right? So because of this short life and this very important life, we need to make the right choice. खाने के लिए आपको कुछ काम चाहिए. That is, of course, understandable. Beyond that, if your material greed is kept unchecked, then I would safely say that that is source of all the illnesses, physical, mental, whatever. To summarize it, be it the destruction of the environment, pollution of water or air, whatever, it's all primarily comes from our human activity. Our human activity comes through our thinking. Our thinking also primarily, not the analytic kind of mind, but just gross, wild, conceptual thoughts. Sometimes we use the term discursive thoughts, discursive, unruly thoughts. Tell you do this, do that, you need this, need that. And then you keep on accumulating the material things, and for that you don't hesitate to tell lie, don't hesitate to, right? I mean, the unfortunate air crash, helicopter crash that we saw. It's an example, you see. Nobody, especially at that level, with such good facilities, never thought about the imminence of death. It's a great example. But when the time comes, in Buddhist text, it says that for death there are many causes. For life there are not much. For death, going to wrong place, eating wrong food, and especially these days people in the market, they will cheat you, and then you go by whatever they say, which is not good for your health, and you become sick and die. So even otherwise, we say that for death to happen, death happens sometimes because of your lifespan has ended. There we can't do anything, of course. Second, death can also come because your merit has been consumed. Now, I want to really emphasize on this fact, because if we keep on doing meaningless, especially destructive things all the time, your merit is consumed like that. On the other hand, if you be compassionate, loving, and patient, and help others, if you're a believer in religion, think about good things, do your meditation, do your prayer, there's so many things that you do. By that, you keep the stock of your merit alive. The more accumulation of merit you have, the more healthier you will be, the more freer you will be, the more calm you will be. I have, in my own Tibetan society, I've seen many senior teachers who passed away very, very peacefully, even with, dreadful diseases like cancer. I know one person, very eminent person. He was an abbot of my monastery, Depung Losilik Monastery, Gi Shithu. You may or may not know. Gi Shithu, one of the top scholars. So he was invited by many of his students in America to teach. So then it was found that he has cancer. Then when checked at the good American hospitals, then the doctors there, they said, even if we give the best treatment, he will live only 3 months. And then around at that time, His Holiness the Dalai Lama visited America. So this scholar came to see His Holiness with one of his top students, Jeffrey Hawkins. He's a top scholar, has written over like 60, 70 books on Buddhism, great scholar, also American, speaks fluent Tibetan. So he was also with him. Then His Holiness suggested him not to stay in America, come back to India. And this American professor, he cried virtually. He cried and said, His Holiness, even told His Holiness, please don't say this. Here we have such a good facility, medical treatment. Still they say he will live only 3 months. So please don't say this. Then this teacher, he scolded this American professor by saying, what do you know? His Holiness knows. What do you know? So he came back. He came back to Dharamsala, stayed there, spent around a year in Dharamsala, during which at one point he had some difficulty like eating food. Then he consulted His Holiness. His Holiness did a divination and they said you should do an operation. He went to Delhi and probably cut half of the stomach or things like that. But he was able to, his attendant was also Geshe. And he later said that he was eating as if nothing has happened to his stomach. He was eating full food. Anyway, then after a point he said, now I have been staying here for long, it looks like wasting my time. I should go to Depung and give some teachings and things like that. So he went there. I don't know how many more months he lived there. He lived. Then finally the cancer spread all over his body and he passed away. But I'm telling this story because when he was in Delhi, I met him and we went a few times, together in an evening walk. Then he was jokingly saying, yeah, we always talk about death, but when death is coming on you, it is not so easy to handle. He was saying that, which means he is really thinking about it. Then when the cancer spread all over his body, he was suddenly brought from Bangalore to Delhi. And that night, around 2 p.m. in the night, he woke up and called his students. Some very senior students were there to help him. And his immediate student, he was also a Geshi and a very elderly person. He started crying and he requested, please don't pass away. And if you pass away, then please tell me about your reincarnation and things like that. He said, shut up. I have no reincarnation, nothing. After my death, don't just pick up any lousy child, give my name like that. So these are genuine teachers. And then he said, okay, now I have, I don't have any loan or debt or anything to anybody. And then he asked them to put his head a certain direction. Then he passed away. And at that very moment, there were like a group of practicing monks from Gitu Tantric College who were doing, a lot of tantric rituals, who were the next day to fly to America for some performance. So as if these monks were there for his farewell. So the next day, they all came and did all the puja, things like that. So there are many. I have many stories like that. Many stories. So they are not scared at all. It's really like going back to your home. So it's question of training. And then the third cause of death is because of your not having avoided risky places, like going into a dangerous, climbing rocks or going on cliffs or visiting dangerous waters, whatever, not avoiding risky places. So these are all in our hand, actually. Right? And then even one very common sense thing is that if you look at your body properly, as I mentioned about that earlier also, it's really like a bubble, very fragile. Okay, don't fool yourself thinking that you are strong, never going to die, never going to get sick. Just look inside what is there. So fragile. With a small mistake, your the small tubes for breathing in the lungs and things like they can be blocked. That's the end of the story. Therefore, the great teacher Nagarjuna, great South Indian teacher, whose text we study these days, amazing texts. So you should now start studying those texts, not to become Buddhist, but if you want, you can become Buddhist. There's no point, but there is not the important. The important thing is these are your own Indian teachers, also from South India. The Tibetans have all these texts, and we have lost everything from India. There's an opportunity now to bring all this back and teach. So that's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama is repeatedly talking about revival of ancient Indian tradition. When he talks about revival of ancient Indian tradition, he's not talking about just teaching Buddhism. He's talking about ancient Indian tradition, especially those teachings on the functions and natures of mind and also the art of logic and reason. So this is a tradition that India, has so much which no other country can compete with India. But we don't pay much attention. Right from the top to the bottom, people don't pay much attention, really. We are only, running after the Western glamorous life. And then we face a problem, we have no idea how to deal with it. That's shameful, actually. Right? So therefore, like His Holiness chair is also chair for Nalanda tradition or something like that. So it's not just inviting one or two teachers, but you should have small groups to whom you can, some of Anita and Dr. Savika, you can recommend some books, the book that I just give you and some other books, then let them study together. Very important. There's nothing to do with Tibetan, okay? People might think, okay, he's Tibetan, he might be getting some benefit. Nothing. I don't expect anything. You already gave me a place to stay in India. That's more than enough. Okay. Okay. I got lot of opportunities to move to Canada, to America. I never moved. I wanted to stay with His Holiness and do my little bit, things like that. So personally, I'm not expecting anything. I have no agenda, nothing. So don't worry about that at all. Okay. But I'm deeply, deeply concerned. Not only concerned, but in my library, after I become director, we have various, the place where I work, where I'm supposed to be the director, we have around 60 people working. So we have research and translation and publication and archival, scanning, digital, all those things are there, small population. So just after a few months, after I became director, I opened a small section, Hindi section, which was not there. And for that, I actually attempted to do something in Hindi, even when I was working with His Holiness Dalai Lama. Then when I became director, then I started that small Hindi section. And I called it Repaying the Kindness. Kindness of Indians to the Tibetans. किसी को तो मैं पैसा भी दे सकता हूँ, honestly speaking, it's question of maybe 500, 1,000, things like that. Some people have nothing. Of course, we can do that. Some Tibetans are doing, even during the pandemic, they did many things in New Delhi, There was a young boy who was like looking after so many, Indians living on the footpath, things like that. Those small things we can do, but other big things we have no capacity to do. But giving this wisdom back to the original land from where we got it, that is our duty, and your duty, your responsibility to take it while we are here. Because we have, actually, there may be sometimes some language barrier, otherwise we have enough scholars who can really teach the profound philosophical ideas and then implement it. That will really, really make India great. In my own limited capacity, I've been telling on many occasions that India's greatness should be shown through soft power, not hard power. Military power, you are compelled to, of course, do that, but military power, I think, is animal power actually. Killing each other is animal power, not human power. Soft power means power of culture. Right? Power of culture means not only talking about some deep philosophy, but becoming the people compassionate, helping, living harmoniously. If you're honest, the country can grow like that. Nobody can. But on the other hand, if you don't observe any of these values and then keep on exploiting each other, engaging in corruption, continuously telling lies, no shame, how can the country go up, A small patch of road is asked to construct, much of the money is embezzled. How can you then compete those people who believe the enemy, see? Right? So this is almost like a question of life and death, really. And this is also very relevant to this topic, hope and darkness. If you practice all this, then there is a hope. In any kind of darkness, there is hope. Right? Okay. So, the point is, darkness is bound to come. Some problem, some difficulty will always be there. But how much you are able to accept it, how much you are able to face that challenge, depends upon your preparedness, your mental preparedness. If your mind is prepared, nothing can, as I said, nothing can bother you. Nothing can bother you. As I cited this quotation last time of a teacher who said, if I'm going to die tonight, wonderful. He's saying wonderful. He's not scared at all. If I'm going to die tonight, wonderful, because I'm not going to continue to live creating suffering upon others. So wonderful. That's not pessimism, okay? It's not talking about committing suicide. Then he says, at the same time, because he's not pessimistic, he's saying, if I'm not going to die tonight, but going to live a long life, wonderful, because by living long, I can continue to help others as much as possible. So whatever is there, wonderful. Take the best out of it. There is nothing called bad. The so-called bad, unpleasant, and these are primarily, mainly, there may be a little bit there, but mainly it is your creation, your mental creation, how you see it. It's your creation. For example, this one, what do we call this? Microphone. Why I can't call this elephant? I'm right now speaking through elephant. Why not? Why not? Somebody give this name microphone, then there's no problem. This is just a name. Everybody said, okay, okay. It became microphone. You are Sunita, you are Lalita, or whatever, When did you become Sunita or Lalita? Somebody give you a name and said, okay, okay, okay. ऐसा कोई Sunita, Lalita, right from the beginning, right after the birth, the child came out saying, I am Sunita. Nothing like that happened. Designation and all this concept of, good, not good, holy, not holy, beautiful, ugly, As we said, beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. You see? A mother may have a child who is actually speaking, may not be handsome, big head, lopsided, whatever, The mother never sees the ugly thing. She keeps on praising her child, my child is so beautiful. He started speaking, he started walking, all the good things. So likewise, if we see the good things in everything, then it's no darkness. Outside the darkness is not darkness. Darkness is the inner darkness. When your thought is negative, when your thought is darkness, then even if there is a full of light, you're not able to appreciate it. Even if you're surrounded by people, smiling and laughing, you will still feel lonely. In big cities like New Delhi, how many people are there? Around 20 millions. Can you imagine? In a big city with 20 millions, there are people who are suffering from depression or loneliness. So clearly showing loneliness is not due to having no people around. There's 20 million people are there. Loneliness is the loneliness of your mind. Similarly, there are meditators, like in Dharamsala, if you come, there are Tibetan meditators who isolate themselves, move high into the mountain, just live with animals, whatever, alone. One senior meditator who passed away some years back, he spent, I think, almost 40 years in Dharamsala, meditating on the mountain. They never feel lonely. Because although they stay high up in the mountain, nobody around, but their mind is about people, People living in the big cities. People living everywhere, thinking how good if they're all happy, how good if they're all peaceful, how good if they're all living harmoniously. So their mind is, they're constantly in touch with them. So it's the human connection, human touch of loving kindness and compassion that can heal almost every darkness. Darkness comes because you just think about yourself, confine yourself to yourself only. Right? So understanding life and facing challenges. So you need to understand life. Life is what? Life is not the sum total of how long you lived. Life is every second that you live, every hour you live. If today, for example, if you wasted today's time, you wasted part of your life already. It's a combination of all these moments in life. So as I said earlier, life is not just breathing. Life is not existing alone. Life is living, flourishing. Life is living with wisdom, as we already discussed. Right? So life is also not living in the past or in the future. There's another very important thing that many people discuss these days. We are not happy because we are either thinking about what happened in the past or what is going to come in the future. So anyway, let me first tell you some tactics that is taught in the Buddhist, scriptures. When you face darkness or misfortunes, there are two, three ways of transforming it. In the mind training text, we call it transforming misfortune into the path. So that can be transformed by thinking and by action. You can transform the problem, the darkness, by thinking and by action. Now, when we talk about thinking, thinking primarily is of two types. One, thinking related to your good heart, altruistic thinking, the wish to benefit others. The moment you develop this wish to benefit others, the moment you get that peace and happiness, you become bold, you see. We become timid and we have fear because we only think about ourselves. The moment you venture out and think about other people, you become bold. Your inner door opens. You are ready to face the challenges, you see. Then you don't get entrapped by the negativity that is surrounding you. So what I'm saying is, in all situations, especially when you encounter difficulties, problems, first thing that you need to do is don't just get bogged down thinking about yourself alone, but also think about others. There may be many others who are suffering much more than me, so I should not really complain. I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky. I'm in a place where no war is going on right now. I'm in a place where there is hospitals. I am in a place where there are good doctors available. I'm in a place where my, friends, relatives are looking after me. In the same world, there are places where people have nobody looking after them. Not only that, they are caught between crossfires. War like is continuously happening in Israel and Palestine. I visited that place many times, even went to the border. Then also the North and South Korea problem, things like that. So many problems. Then African countries. So if you just think about yourself and think only about what you don't have, then the problem is compounded. Right? Your mind thinking makes huge difference. Huge difference. Take the example of the mother. The mother, when she sees her children suffering, she becomes courageous. And she doesn't hesitate to go any length to protect them, to help them, you see. That doesn't make her vulnerable. That doesn't make her vulnerable. You see. And in fact, she gets a sense of satisfaction. Yes, I worked hard. I was able to help my children, things like that. So during the pandemic also, there are examples of many good people, they ventured out, they did amazing things. Right? So, thinking related to the heart, loving kindness, compassion, altruism, these things must be cultivated when you encounter misfortune. Don't just bow down. Then the second way of thinking is thinking through the philosophical view. Philosophical view basically means thinking by understanding the law of nature. If you look at the law of nature, now forget about law of nature. If you think about the present pandemic, the COVID-19 or even Omicron or Omicron, how do you spell it? Some say Omicron, some say Omicron, I don't know. So whatever it is. But the good news is the World Health Organization just yesterday said it's not so bad, but we have to be careful. Anyway, so as we already discussed during the last few days, whether that this is like the Delta and whatever, Omicron, whatever, they are also impermanent. I mean, try to recall the Spanish pandemic also killed millions of people, but no trace right now. It is also possible, especially like in those days. For example, if you read the story of how the vaccination for polio came and how many years it took, it's horrifying. During all the so many years, people are dying, no vaccination, nothing. But now this diseases are dreadful. But on the other hand, immediately one or the other vaccines are coming out. So think about some of these positive things. While you prepare yourself, observe all the COVID protocols as they say, then there's nothing to worry. And then also all the good things. The only thing is people, I don't know how to say this, there are good people, but it's difficult to see on a large scale, the positive changes, well-planned positive changes to bring about. That is not so much forthcoming. And then individual human, mind or brain is, the memory is short. So whenever I hear the new normal, I get scared actually. People may be expecting the new normal, but when I hear the word new normal means people again do the same stupid thing. They will not care at all and then become susceptible to another problem, another difficulty. But learning from this particular, darkness or pandemic, whatever, if we come up with a systematic planning as a country or as a state, that okay, now this time this has happened, that has happened, people came, did good things, the government did good things, but here we failed, there we failed. But next, whatever kind of problems are coming, we are going to face it like this. There should be a strategy. I mean, it's easier said than done, but that does not mean to say it can never be done. It can be done, I think, especially regarding people's health, if there is a proper, plan from the government or the state. I think we can fight many of these diseases, right? And one of the greatest diseases, not COVID-19, it's the hunger, poverty. How many millions of people, especially children, die in a day, which is not reported to the extent how the pandemic is reported. And these are something that we can solve and we're not doing. So I don't know who to blame, but as I said the other day, we cannot, there's no push button enlightenment, but never give up, do our bit. It will make a difference to at least to some people. So that should be our strategy. Okay. So whatever with the situation, however the situation is dark, that however strong the darkness of the situation may be, the most important thing is never get discouraged. These days people use the word silver lining, try to see the silver lining in every situation. See all the aspects, the things that you learned during the difficult period, things like that. Right? This is important. It is in this context that I would like to recite this. Somebody said, we need more to improve, fewer to disapprove. We need more doers, few talkers. बोलने वाला बहुत है ना आजकल में भी इसमें ना. Few talkers. More to say it can be done, fewer to say it cannot be done. More to inspire others with confidence, fewer to throw cold water on anyone taking even one step in the right direction. Encourage करना एक दूसरे को. Shabash, very good. Don't get jealous. More to get into the thick of things and do something about it, fewer to sit on the sidelines merely finding fault. This is the problem. Everybody knows how the boat should have been saved when it is capsized. More to point out what is right, fewer to keep harping on what is wrong. And then finally, this line I like so much. More to light a candle, fewer to curse the darkness. For example, if there is no light here, we can, 30, 40 people are here, we can all say, we can all, blame the state government, short supply, improper supply of electricity, all the bad things we can say. That doesn't solve the problem. If one person gets up, light a candle, that solves the problem. So it's like that. So we can make a difference. So therefore, the second point that I was talking about was the transformation through the proper view of seeing things as they are. Seeing things as they are. Whether it's a pandemic, whatever, it will never stay forever. So instead of cursing COVID-19, take all the necessary precautions for yourself to protect yourself. Don't go into the wrong place, you know, and then take that opportunity to learn more. Like during the 2 years of pandemic, I really enjoyed, because as a Buddhist, practitioner, kind of practitioner means not the big practitioner, but small practitioner. And especially I'm fond of reading books. So I spent almost 2 years just reading books, translating some books. I had no sense of time, and it was so wonderful not to have to go to office and do things on my own. So like that. And even there are many people who just started painting, who started cooking, learn so many things, new things. And you actually got more time to stay with your parents, relatives, and friends than before. So there are many, many good things that you can count. Kind of blessings are also there. That's important. So take every opportunity to do the right thing rather than sitting there and cursing. And then, with regard to the first, developing altruistic attitude, this is important because according to the Tibetan mind training text, it says, you open any text, open any page of a sacred text, they will all say that all faults are yours and all good things are due to my friends and beings. That's how you should see. Normally we see all the good things are because of me. All the problems are due to him. That's the problem, you see. So now you need to change your attitude a little bit. Appreciate the good things of others. The others are not enlightened Buddhas. They are ordinary people, but they are generally very kind, very helping, you see. Respect that, appreciate that. Right? And if you make any mistake, own the mistake. It is your doing. So that will completely, your narrow-mindedness will then go away. And you feel more connected to other people. Therefore, whenever there's an opportunity, give the victory to others. You can suffer that defeat or loss. It is not going to make a big problem, okay? For example, as I said the other day, if somebody scolds you, okay, so what? Somebody gives you bad name, so what? Let them do. If they are happy with that. Okay? Things like that. So I cannot explain it precisely because of shortage of time. So there are a lot to learn in these things. Okay? And then in terms of the philosophical view, as I said, number one, those that are harming you, those that are obstructing you, they don't have any inherent independent existence, meaning that they will not be there forever. Now ordinarily, when you don't have that right perspective, forget about COVID-19, even with a person with whom you had some disagreement, because of exaggeration by your mind, you tend to think that this person is always waiting at the corner for you, to harm you, to exploit you. It looks like that. That's not true. That other person may have harmed you, but he has his own lot of work. He's also busy, like any other modern busy man. He's also busy with, doing so many things. He's not sitting there, contemplating how to harm you continuously. Not like that. So don't just see that person as a, embodiment of all the negativities. It is not like that. It's not like that. And then, even if that person has hurt you, there may be reasons. You may have also played a part to it. Like His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave a amazing example when this Saddam Hussein, the dictator, when he was attacked and finally he was killed and things like that. During that time, everybody was blaming Saddam Hussein that he's a dictator, things like that. It was perhaps only His Holiness Dalai Lama who said that yes, it is true. Saddam Hussein is negative, he is a dictator. But it is not fair to blame everything to him. And he said, who supplied him the arms? Those very people who are blaming him, they supplied him the arms. And if he is without arms, how much destruction he can do? So there's a lot of hypocrisy, hypocrisy. So therefore it is important to get this concept taught in Buddhism that nothing comes from one cause, one condition. Everything comes from multiplicity of causes and conditions. So develop that larger perspective in thinking. For example, if somebody hurts me, then normally we have this tendency, okay, he is the one who is doing all these bad things. He must be eliminated. He must be brought to the court. You are unable to think that you also played a part. You are unable to think that this person may have other reasons to become, angry or hurt you. So many situations. Take into account, if you take into account all those causes and factors, then who to blame? You won't find the target. But the problem, as I said yesterday, the problem with all these negative emotions is these negative emotions are narrow-minded. They're all fanatics, fundamentalists, narrow-minded. They just want a target. For example, if you get angry, you want a target. He is responsible. He is responsible. You are unable to think bigger. That's how the negative emotions are. When you develop attachment, oh, this person I like, I only want this one, not else. You can't think bigger. When you develop unconditional loving kindness, you talk about loving everybody. Whether they benefited you or not, harmed you or not, they are like me, want happiness, do not want suffering. You are able to embrace. So this positive qualities, they are broad-minded, have a larger perspective, have solid foundation. Negative emotions have no solid foundation. It's an immediate response for your survival or whatever. So think like that. Okay? Philosophically, you can think like that. And then, more importantly, you should think, thank God this problem came. Because this problem is actually telling me that I should change myself. That I should bring my inner resources out. You have the capacity to deal with all these problems, but you never thought that you have the capacity. So you have been running. Now, there's no more running. You're cornered by these problems. So bring your resources out and fight with them and win over them. But the question is it possible that you will always win over these negativities? Not possible. Not possible. So therefore, let me cite these quotations, beautiful quotations. Similar quotations. Wisdoms are same from everywhere. Many of you must have heard this serenity prayer. The serenity prayer by Epictetus. So that other day I was saying this small philosophical book written by Epictetus was translated much later on. It's almost like Shantideva's Bodhisattva way of life. So there he says, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. If it is something that you cannot change, you have to accept it. Okay, forget, now I can't do this. The problem is normally, even if you cannot change it, but we keep on thinking about this. मुझे ऐसा हो गया, मुझे ऐसा हो गया, मुझे ऐसा हो गया, वही सोचते रहते हैं, क्या फायदा? So he's saying, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. ये मेरे से ये बदल नहीं हो सकता है यार, change नहीं कर सकता करके, then you move on some other thing. Don't just bog down thinking about that. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change the things I can. कभी there are things we can change, but you are not moving. Still you are thinking, I will not be able to do it. मुझे डर लग रहा है. Even if you are in a situation which is really not healthy, lot of problem, because that problematic situation, that situation of suffering, you are little bit familiar with that. So you just want to stay in that surrounding where you have some familiarity and don't want to move into that unfamiliar place, which may be much healthier, cleaner, better. You don't want to move. This is human way of thinking, narrow-minded way of thinking. So give me the courage to change the things I can. थोड़ा boldness होना चाहिए. And then here what you really need, and the wisdom to know the difference. What you can change, what you can't change. उसमें थोड़ा आप सोचो, wisdom होना चाहिए. This is serenity prayer. Now look at this Shantideva's prayer in his verse 10, chapter 6. Why be unhappy about something if it can be remedied or changed? Because you can change it, no need to feel sorry. And what is the use of being unhappy about something if it cannot be changed? So this is like saying, why cry over the spilled milk, as we say normally? Oh, दूध चला गया, अब बार बार रो के क्या करेंगे आप? That's what he's saying. There's another one, somebody by James Baldwin. Actually, he's a very good philosopher. I read a number of his articles. He says, not everything that is faced can be changed. This is also true. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Then another one, right injuries in dust, benefits in marble. Similar quotation by Nagarjuna in his letter to the friend, where he says, when it comes to the use of your mind, employment of mind in positive and negative things, he says, it should be like written on water, written on the earth or ground, and written on stone. Now, meaning that when it comes to negative emotions, it should be like writing on water. As soon as you write, it is erased. If you get angry with somebody, okay, you on the spot, you got angry, then don't give it. It will only consume you. But uske baad phir try to talk to this person. I personally try to do this and very successful. Because as a director, I have to look out to these people. Luckily, I have very good staffs, but sometimes, certain things are not happening. Then I a little bit get annoyed and scold, say like this. Then after 1 hour or something, then I meet that person. Okay, let's go for a cup of tea. What is the big deal there? Again, the way the human mind functions, the negativity is so strong. If you have a friend who has been your friend, as we say, hand and glove friend, very close friend, say for the last 30 years. 30 years, I'm saying. This morning you had some problem, 5 minutes problem, 5 minutes fighting, argument, fighting. Then what happens? You will remember that 5 minutes fighting, you will not remember that 30 years of friendship. This is human mind, So what you can do is, if you had this 5 minutes fight, ordinary people, of course, we erupt out, it happens. So after that, you should have the courage, as he said here, you have the courage to go to that friend, touch his hand, hug him, and say, I'm sorry. If there's a need to cry, cry. So what? Cry and say, we've been such a good friend for 30 years. It's unthinkable that we fought this morning for 5 minutes. Let us forget it. It is guaranteed your friendship will be much, much stronger than before, because you know each other for the last 30 years. But stupid as we are, then we start thinking, oh, if I do that, then I will be the loser. He will be the winner, so I don't want to talk to him. पिछले 5 साल से मैं उनसे बातें नहीं कर रहा हूँ. As if you are hero. यार क्या बकवास है. Really? So learn these things. These days there are very interesting strategies coming up how to, solve those kind of problems. For example, if you had a problem, if I had some problem with Anita, and she refused to talk to me, I refused to talk to her. And in order to solve this problem, I should not just go to her, say, Anita, sorry, not like that. But just as if nothing has happened, go to Anita and say, Anita, can I borrow your pen? Just that. And such a small thing, borrowing a pen or a pencil, she will never refuse. And by lending her pencil or pen, we already made this connection. Then I said, thank you, Anita, thank you. Then we start talking. So easy. So don't become proud and arrogant. All these problems can be solved. So when it comes to the arisal of negative emotions, it arises, it happens, but as soon as you develop negative emotions, try to forget it, just like writing on water. If not, at least writing on ground. It will stay sometime, but it will go away. Not writing on stones, not carving on stones. Matlab, don't put it in your mind for a long time. If it is carving on stone, even when the stone breaks, the writing is still there. Now, when it comes to doing good things, the best thing is it should be like carving on stone. If not possible, at least writing on the ground. Definitely not writing on water. Especially as I was saying the other day, when it comes to cultivating these good habits, you need to continuously practice. Now, scientifically, they have done some tests about the efficacy of many of these good things. Some of these good things that you do last for 2 months, last for 3 months, and then after that they stop giving fruit. So again, that means you need to continue to do the practice, things like that. Okay? And also, the benefits of darkness or suffering and problem is you get a little bit discouraged, right? When you experience problem difficulties. When you get a little bit discouraged or down, it means you are reducing your arrogance. The arrogance that you could never reduce before, now because of this unfortunate situation, your arrogance came down. आदमी पिघल जाता है. When you lose everything, then sir, namaskar. You look at those people, who are in more need of others. They'll say namaskar first of all. Those of us who are a little bit on a higher pedestal, we hardly bow down. मैं तो देश का ये है वो है बोल करके ऐसे सिर ऊपर cloud में, have your head in the cloud and move like that. Why should, pride go before a fall? तभी तो फिर हम लोग fall होते हैं, है ना? Now, actually, according to the Buddhist practices, humility is one of the most important practice that you can do. And it gives example by saying you should yourself see and watch the nature. Where does the beautiful flowers, green grasses grow? More down in the valley or on the exposed top of a mountain? Of course, more down in the valley. So like that down valley, if you become humble, you become receptive, you learn from others. If you act like that exposed top of a mountain, किसी से कुछ नहीं सीखना है कुछ भी नहीं है, फिर भी सोचता है बहुत है ना? So that's the problem. So and then in the other way, important way to deal with this problem is practice, action. As many people did during the pandemic, sharing what they have and what many other people don't have, talking to people who have nobody to talk to, giving them confidence. You lose nothing just by talking, encouraging them, or giving at least a lunch or a dinner, even to one person or two persons, like that. Practice, right? Then also doing some of your prayers also, your visualization may or may not help others, but it will definitely help you, things like that. And then purification of negativities. Because many of these sufferings are definitely result of you having done something wrong in the past lives or some months before or whatever. Right? For example, if you get COVID-19, it means somewhere you slipped. गलती की आपने भी, नहीं तो ऐसे थोड़ी घुस आता है. Right? So your part is also there. So purify the negative deeds. Purify the negative deeds. And then also seeking support. If you are a believer, seeking support of some of the Dharma protectors. And then, more importantly, you should learn from such experience that if you don't want suffering and if you want happiness, that means this problem is saying that if you don't want suffering, want happiness, then you must collect the causes for happiness. This COVID-19 is saying, if you don't want me, then you should do those things which will stop my coming. Don't do those things which will instigate my coming. Right? So this is in our hand. So through that way, you should develop loving kindness, compassion, and say, if it is good for me to die and get sick, okay. If it's not good for me to die and get sick, okay, be dead. so be that. Okay. All right. So, oh, time already finished. Okay, some questions then.
Namaskar, Guruji. My question is, being a mother and a teacher, it's my responsibility and duty to discipline my children.
Mm.
So how do I do it without getting angry?
Without becoming angry, if you
Yes.
if you get angry, you will not be able to help them because you are mad. A mad teacher cannot help to student.
Not always, but as you said, like you gave
No,
your
no, no, no,
example.
no.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done. Sometimes you know, you become angry, you become mad, but as much as possible, you can pretend you are angry, not actually get angry. That's what parents do. That's what good teachers do. If you really get angry, that means you don't like that student, don't like that child. So there's no way you can help that person. But if you pretend you're really angry, upset, not smiling, the end purpose is to bring that child on the right path. So that should be done. So we should be tactful. For example, if you look at how the training is given in the Montessori schools, there are many techniques. For example, if there is one naughty child, what they do is they put the rest of the children there, you know, let them do some playful thing. Everybody is laughing, singing, and then this one naughty child is put here in the corner. No beating, nothing. But that is very disturbing as a small child. He really wants to be with that person, you see. So then you can easily tell them, so this is how your nature. You want to be with them, then you should behave properly. This is the Montessori school process of teaching. It's very beautiful. Things. So there are many tactics. Many tactics. And sometimes, when I was in school, I was a discipline in charge. I used to be quite tough. I used to beat people like anything. Sometimes, not always. Because some students, they were like I was in the 10th or something like that. So the other students also like big, some of them are much stronger than me. And they run away to watch a movie, they don't come to class, and then many things. So sometimes, it, among the students, there are two, some who are generally very good. Sometimes they make a mistake. So if you are not well trained, then if you want to show that, oh, I'm observing everything, every time you make a mistake, I'll catch you kind of attitude, and then you punish that good person for having done just one wrong, then this person will also join the bad people. So sometimes even some people, they generally good but make a mistake, just pretend you have not seen anything. So there are different techniques. There are different techniques. And for some naughty people, as I said, instead of beating or something like that, they are also scared of you, equally scared of you. You're in a higher position. So they think that you are unreachable. So sometimes intentionally go and talk to them from where your parents, and some personal stories, and then invite for a cup of tea, and then gradually you become friends. Then you can tell those things which you really want to tell, that might change that person. There are many students who say, I am really not good, but before this teacher I can't do, he's so nice to me. They also keep that kind of sensitivity. So there's not one solution, there are many different solutions for different people. But to get angry and beating, we do, of course, but I think it's not good. Not good. Because this reminded me a very good Tibetan teacher, not only teacher but very senior Lama, the Belagupi, who passed away now in the Nyingmaba monastery, uh, Rinpoche. He passed many years back, but his monastery is big monastery. So they some years back invited me to give 2-3 days of general talks. So I was there. Then they invited me for a lunch, dinner, things like that. Some of the senior abbors, they came, so we were chatting. Then they told me about the story of this great teacher, Penor Rinpoche. So whenever the others, try to beat other naughty monks, then he would always get very angry. He would say, "Why you're beating? They're human beings, not animals. Human beings can think. If you teach them think, they can think, not animals." And then there are also stories of some monks who are there a little bit naughty, not doing anything. Then they would inform this Rinpoche saying that they're not doing anything, they're not studying, things like that. Rinpoche said, there are so many different people. Understand their difference. Just being in the, campus of the monastery will leave some positive imprint. So don't say like that. They will get some opportunity to become good. So later on, they found some of these kind of naughty monks who didn't study, who are age-wise also quite grown up. So they stay there 1 year, 2 years, and then they go back. Not only go back to their, village, but they, disrobe and get married. But later on, they found these people are working so hard to bring Dharma in that area. See, so there are different people who can receive different impacts through different ways.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
In the monastery, what is the type of education which you are providing? Is it like a kindergarten, first to fifth?
Yeah, we have
What is the
very,
type?
in the monastery we have very small group of monks who are these days only sent to school, kind of monastery school where the modern subjects also taught. Earlier we never had that. So only studying, memorizing Buddhist texts, doing memorizing some prayers, and then later on they grow up, then go to different levels of classes where they primarily study philosophical texts. But now, since we have seen the need for the modern, education, so all the monasteries they have schools. All the young monks they go to schools. I think they have up to 10th class where mathematics, English, everything is taught.
What about the girls?
Girls they have nunneries.
What is it?
Nunnery. It's like convent. They have their own different setup, like the monastery. They have nunneries. There are many nunneries in Nepal, in the same monastery I explained in Dharamshala, many nunneries. Not only that, since some years His Holiness encouraged the nuns to study and become the top scholars like the monks. He gave them opportunity. Now they already first and I think second or third batch already completed their highest study, philosophical study. So next time, good reminder, invite one nun here.
Yesterday and today you talked about fear of death. Fear of death is one of the things Buddha tried to teach through his first seed about the impermanence, and fear of death comes from two sources. The person who is dying is afraid of dying, and the people who are around him, they are sad that because he has died.
Yeah.
So now I think for some sects of the some sects of Buddhism, they have invented something called Amitabha Buddha. And this Amitabha, and they have told also that if at the time of death, if the person chants the name of Amitabha Buddha, he will be directly taken to a land of pure light, something like a heaven, while the anger, fear, nothing is there, and he will be happy. So is it a deception or is it a distortion of Buddha's teachings?
I don't want to use the word deception because they might have done it with a good motivation. But at the same time, I would say it is not very realistic. This to me sounds like, you spend your whole life, stealing and everything. Then at the end of the day, give some bribe and you will be released. It doesn't happen, because the law of karma means whatever you've done throughout your life, you will have to experience the fruit. Nobody can save you from that. किसी को bribe दे करके वो थोड़ी हो सकता है. But as a last resort, at least if that teaching develop some confidence, this very strong devotion to Amitabha Buddha and things like that. That has its own benefit. Nothing else can be done at that last stage. So, not only that, it is advised that for the dying person, if that dying person has no familiarity with any Buddhist philosophical knowledge, don't give any philosophical teaching. He will be confused. When we are alive, we cannot do anything. How can that person do when he is dying now? So instead, put in front of him something that gives him peace, like a guitar or something that person really likes, to at least help him not to develop attachment, but to help him feel, at home and die peacefully. So not just teaching, and with some people who really he likes. So that's only a tactic, but you cannot solve your problem like that. Do all the sin throughout your life, and then Amitabha, he pulls you up. No, impossible.
Namaha Guruji,
Yeah.
how do you deal with a person who has been cruel? How do one have attitude of indifference towards those people who have been unjust or been cruel to you? How do you maintain the attitude of indifference?
Now these are all related to many things. Number one, how you become subject of the cruelty of that person. That itself is a long story. So generally we say, that's why we say generally make sure that you don't go to the wrong place, don't associate with the wrong people, all these things. But sometimes, of course, we can't judge everything. That person in the beginning seems to be very nice, later on become very bad. All these possibilities are there. So in that case, the time when you are like living very friendly, harmoniously, is the time gone. You have to accept that. Now, if it is a situation where you can't really go together with that person, make it very clear. Okay, now, living together or being a friend is a problem for you, problem for me, so let us accept that. So you go your way, I go my way, finish. Okay? Then the word indifference. Indifference is not a very healthy word, but you should maintain, instead of indifference, maintain equanimity. Equanimity, not indifference. Indifference means if you are somebody practicing compassion, then you practice compassion to everybody, even those people who hurt you. Okay? So therefore you can't be indifferent. You have to have some sympathy, compassion to that person for being cruel, which is not good, not only for you, but not good for that person also. Right? Because the very moment when you become cruel and develop negative emotions, your mind is disturbed. It's 100% sure. However much you pretend you are okay, but you are not okay. So that way you develop that compassion. But developing compassion doesn't mean that you again go and hug that person, be together, get the same problem, not like that. So that's why, one big thing that I learned when I was working with His Holiness in his office, I learned a big thing was, because I was the only monk, not only, kind of only monk who spoke English and studied Buddhist philosophy, things like that. So every time there is some visitor who wants to see His Holiness and could not see His Holiness, then they would the secretaries would dumb me down saying, Hila, deal with them. So I pretend I have something to say. So there I learned, you should be compassionate, but be tough. That's what I really learned. Be compassionate and tough. Be compassionate and tough means deep down you should not have any enmity. Be compassionate, try to solve that problem. But that doesn't mean that you should also become a victim of that wrong thinking, wrong idea, wrong philosophy of that person, So you should be tough. And you should know when to say no. If possible, politely, otherwise firm no. That's it. Make it very clear. We suffer because of our indecisiveness, neither white nor black, the gray zone we suffer much. So therefore, Therefore, we should be little. It's not easy, of course, but not easy does not mean you can't solve it. It is possible to solve it. You know, it's different people. I'll tell you some. I have a lot of stories. You know, for some people, you need just patient hearing, nothing. You don't need anything. Once a black woman came to His Holiness office. So as usual, the secretaries asked me to go down. I went there. She had brought with her her child, maybe 7, 8 years old. Then she started saying something. She kept on saying a lot of things, her problems, things like that. I listened very carefully. I listened. Didn't say anything. I did not interrupt her. I listened. And after she had finished talking, when I was about to say something, you know what she said? I don't need to hear anything from you. The fact that you listen to me so carefully, so patiently, for the first time in my life, is a big thing for me. I'm so happy now. She was crying, you know. Many people not just one, I met many people like that. It's like that. That's what I was saying. You know, for some people you don't need any teaching or anything. Just be a nice friend. Different tactics. Then sometimes you get crazy, completely crazy people, not just one, 5, 6 of them. I'll tell you this story. It is interesting, you know. Again, this time some monks from there's a monastery called Sejogli. So they called me directly. There are 5, 6 people coming to His Holiness office. Geshe-la, can you please see them first of all? I said, okay. Then 5, 6 of them were there. So then the leader of that group, they said, I want to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama to bring peace in the world. Then I said, this is wonderful, this is wonderful. His Holiness is also working for world peace. So this is wonderful. So I'll give you, all the books that he has read, things like that. No, we want to see him. I said, his schedule doesn't permit. You can't see him. I'll give you all his books. So they tried to say something, I tried to something. They are not listening, And then after a while they said, it's only the Dalai Lama who can make 2 people meet, and then there will be world peace. That's what they said at the end of the day. Then I have to use I have respect for what they say, but I also use my logic. And it's common sense that, that 2 people meet and then there will be world peace is fantasy, It's impossible. Okay. So then at the end they were saying, Mr. Lakdor, don't block the door for peace, things like that. And they were saying this because there's a lady with black gown, tall lady. They were making this statement according to the so-called vision of this lady. So the group who are like working on that idea. So what to do now? I can't fight, So what I did was telling a lie, unfortunately. What I did was, okay, sorry, thank you very much. We already spent nearly 1 hour. I have somebody, to meet when I have nobody to meet, just to run away from that place. So, so many different people, So you have to be sometimes tough, sometimes tactful, sometimes nice, things like that. Okay?
So, what is your first thought when you wake up, and what is your last thought when you sleep?
Yeah?
What is your first thought when you wake up, and what is your last thought when you sleep?
I have no idea. Sometimes I wake up, I think I'm lucky. Sometimes I don't think, Actually, this is a very good question. Because every time you wake up, you should be grateful. You should not take it granted that you always wake up. It may be your last sleep. So to wake up means you should, I thank whoever that I'm alive again as a human being. I have great potential to do many things. So today I'll spend my day in a meaningful way. There is a stanza which says there are 2 ways of doing things, in the beginning, in the end. That means in the beginning we should cultivate this motivation that whatever profession, whatever work you are doing, you should develop the motivation that I will use my resource, my work to make others happy, to help others, then it is not necessary that you will be successful all the time. Sometimes in the day you meet strange people, you pick up a fight, all those things happen, unfortunately. But then at the end of the day, before you sleep, you review how you lived your life. If it has been successful, then you should thank and then promise, I will also do the same thing tomorrow. If it has not been successful, then you feel sorry that I'm not successful, but next day I will try to be successful. So with this repeated attempt, then you can change it. So that's what you should do. Yeah. What you should do, not me. There's a very recently I saw a short clip in Tibet. So there was I don't know, this is just an acting or a real thing. There was a kind of lama who says, oh, you should not eat meat, meat is very bad, it's the life of animals, Then just after the teaching, he was plate full of meat and he was eating like this meat. Then this Lama, how come you do this? When you just taught us not to eat meat. They said, no, I'm different. I'm just simply habituated with this. So like that. Yeah, I also try my best to develop that motivation and also at least reflect on something good, like compassion, love, whatever, just before sleep. When you do that, then many a times it's very likely that in the night you can sometimes receive teachings from person you never met because of your having developed that positive motivation. Even when you're sleeping, you receive teachings. So therefore, because sleep is called a neutral, neither positive nor negative, it's the neutral state. But with the motivation, you can transform the whole sleep into virtuous practice. So if you know how to do practice, this is a great learning opportunity. Yeah. But just before sleeping, if you watch a horror movie, things like that, then different impact.
Any more questions? Last session today. Anyone has any questions? No?
My question refers to your talk yesterday.
Huh?
My question refers to your talk yesterday. It's regarding altruism. People do not understand what is altruism, how we should practice it. So difficult to make people understand altruism. Even in nature, the winner is the one who defeats the others. Evolution is based on survival of the fittest. Even in evolution, in nature, it's the survival of the fittest, not the person who yields himself or sacrifices himself for the others. So it's very difficult to make understand altruism works in nature. It works. Actually it works. But it's a very difficult concept for people to understand. So I just want some examples.
Actually, I was told that even when you think about Darwin's theory of evolution and speak about the survival of the fittest, there is a very strong connotation of practice of altruism in Darwin's theory of evolution. So that Darwin's theory of evolution is not at all against altruism and not at all saying that you unnecessarily sacrifice yourself. No. Okay, number one. Number two, altruism is an English word which may have different connotations, but basically it means the wish to help and benefit others. So that if you have that wish to help and benefit others, in other words, this wish to help and benefit others is almost a natural thing. Because right from your birth, even when you are in the womb of the mother, you have been helped by others. for 9 months in the womb of the mother has been taking care of that. Then after birth also, human beings are said to be the one which takes great longest time to nurture. So they survive again based on the love of mother and others. Then around the time of death or sickness, or when you become old and unable to look after yourself, again you are naturally dependent on others' kindness and things like that. So that is one way of seeing things. The other more important thing is this need to have, love and compassion from others is a biological requirement. Now it is scientifically found that the more the child is hugged when the child is of small age, the better the growth of the brain. It's scientifically proved. Unlike some other species where the mother gives birth and then goes away, never connecting, never seeing each other. So he always was wondering whether the scientists can do a research on this, whether they have any feeling of mother-child relationship for those kind of people. But for us, yes, we have that connection. Yeah. So therefore, altruism is, in that sense, not difficult to understand. It basically means the wish to help others. It doesn't mean sacrifice yourself. Sacrifice, when you use the word sacrificing yourself, then that is at a higher stage. When you reach a higher stage, if it is important, you should sacrifice. And you can sacrifice also. But when you have not reached that stage, you are discouraged not to practice it. Right? But yes, some small sacrifices, but not the big sacrifice, When you reach high stage, even you sacrifice your life. There are many stories like that, And the possibility is there in the mother herself, inborn quality. Because as I mentioned earlier, in Buddhism we give an example of a mother having a young, small, cute little child. Small, cute little child. Only child. And somehow this cute little child falls into a pit of fire. Mother not necessarily Buddhist or any, any who has gone mental training, nothing like that. But by her biological fact of having love and affection to the little child, she would not hesitate jumping into the pit of fire to save her. So that shows that the capacity for altruism is a kind of inborn thing that is there with us. Okay? Yeah.
Something called city, yes. But inculcate on.
Yes.
We make business with this. I mean, the schools in schools, for example, used to have moral science class.
Yes, true.
Where you teach these basic
Exactly.
things. That is done away with.
Exactly.
It would be nice if these things are admired.
Exactly. So exactly. That is the call of the day. Yeah, that's the call. You're absolutely right. That's why we really need to know.
Relearn.
Relearn. Exactly. Absolutely true. Yeah. We are completely caught by the marvels of the sensual objects. All you want to do is chase the sound, chase the smell, chase the touch, chase the taste, chase the form, all the 5 sensual objects. I was kind of amazed and shocked, probably, or amazed also. I read this in Abhidharma, how we are, fooled or duped by the sensual objects. Then after that study, when I visited the mall is an exact representation of what is taught in Abhidharma. If you visit the first floor of the mall, it will be scent normally in the Western countries, scent of all kinds, chiragne ke liye, na? Scent for the nose. How much money we spend there for scent? Next, you move to the next floor. It may be CDs, DVDs, sound. You get completely attracted there, spend a lot of money there. Move to the next floor. Form, which means what you see in the color television, the celebrities. Move to the next floor, restaurants. for test. Move to the next floor, cloth. Cloth has many sections, ladies, kids, and so many things. And we get completely entrapped what is being displayed there. And no time opportunity to go into the mind. There's no floor which talks about going to the mind. So that is how we live, you see. So we keep on chasing the sensual objects, never get the time to go within, think about the moral values, plan for the long-term future. So therefore you are absolutely right to have this. We need to talk about this again and again and do something, not just talking. Do something. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm honored. Thank you. I never met a Lama at such close quarters, so I feel really elated. Especially Savita brought me to the forum where we could interact with you. It was really very nice. It's a lovely learning experience. It's a lovely realization, actually, like you said. All things are there. We need to scratch, find out our basic qualities, and that is what you brought out in us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All of you.